Okay, with it being so close to All-Star break and with fan voting opening this past week, we always get those funny fan votes that put players at the top of the All-Star votes that we know not gonna make the team.
Right.
What players do you think that's gonna be this year?
This year, in the past, we've had like when Zaza was almost a starter, Zaza Pachulia,
Alex Caruso was top 10 last year in fan voting.
Taco Fall got a lot of votes, and there was one more player that's not coming to mind right now, so it's always funny. I think this year, nobody really stands out to me, but I'm going to just say a wild card because I know how much everybody loves him, and he's actually, kind of hooping. He's not an all-star, but LaMelo Ball. I think LaMelo, I'm interested to see his first return all-star votes this year, especially he just had 27, 5 and 9 in their last game against the Milwaukee Bucks, so it'll be interesting to see LaMelo's votes return.
I think if he was getting more minutes, I think it would definitely be Bobo, right?
Yeah.
He has all the qualities of that funny prop fan vote.
Yeah.
He's super tall, super long.
And NBA Twitter loved him last year when he got his first start in the bubble. They went crazy over him. So, yeah, if he was just getting slightly more minutes, I think Ball would be a contender.
And with that being said, I'm Jon W.
It's Fresh X.
And this is the Hoopers Hour powered by Nothing But Net Radio on Dash Radio. This is our first episode. For people who don't know, you want to give them a little background info on us?
Yeah, so for the people that don't know, he's Jon W. I'm Fresh X. We are the self-proclaimed international professional podcasters, the Hoopers, part of the Off the Ball Network, and everything NBA, WNBA, college basketball, overseas, everything basketball is what we're about. No crazy hot takes, just fun basketball topics. Sometimes it's a little controversial, but always respectful. And we are from Atlanta, real life Hoopers. I played some college ball, some minor league pro ball, and the hoop life has been a part of us our whole lives pretty much. So this is for the Hoopers worldwide. Anyone that enjoys basketball conversation. Obviously, you got the main topics that everyone's going to touch, but we try to pride ourselves in talking to a little bit about a few other things that's going on, or a few other people that may not come to mind. Just everything hoops. We love hooping. We love watching basketball. We love the history of the game. So that's us, the Hoopers.
Definitely, and first and foremost, as this is our first time trying out the radio thing. We consider this, the conversationalist. So, respect the conversation because everybody's opinions are welcome and will be heard. Just respect everybody because your opinion might be different from mine, and mine will always be different from yours. So, like you say, like conversation and just respect the conversation.
Right.
Got a pretty long week in the NBA.
Yep.
I know just starting with this weekend on Saturday, you had a couple big games. Of course, the rivalry, once again, the Boston Celtics and the LA Lakers.
Yep.
Came down to a last-second miss by Kemba on a shot that he's made so many times, that step-back three.
Right.
Dame
hit a go-to shot for him.
Damian Lillard for the Portland Trailblazers hit a crazy buzzer beater in what was the last crazy sequence of events to end the game off.
Right. He got because he got the first shot and there was a jump ball by great defense by Gary Trent, and then the scramble for the ball and an amazing shot from Dame to win the game.
Right. Yeah, like as you just said, coming into this, LaMelo Ball had a great game Saturday night against the Milwaukee Bucks. Had 27 points off the bench.
Right.
Especially with all the talk that's been surrounding, his play and his dad and how the coach is coaching him. It was good to see LaMelo have a big game like that, definitely.
Right, yeah. LaMelo has had an up and down season this year, mainly some ups. He went through a little shooting slump recently, but his shooting numbers were so high before. He had to just come back down to earth a little bit. But great game from LaMelo against a really good team. So that has to give him some confidence because, it's one thing when you have good games against underwhelming teams, but to, put up 27 on the Bucks, I don't think that's, that's not something you just overlook. So shout out to LaMelo for a solid game.
Definitely that. And with LaMelo, you had the controversy with his dad coming out saying, you got to start him. My son don't belong on the bench. He a superstar. The same old LeVar Ball rhetoric that he's had throughout the careers that we've known his sons. And, Of course, Coach JB came out and said, he has to play better. defense and turnover, and with turnovers, who cares if he's making these flashy look passes if he's gonna turn the ball over 3-4 times after that.
Right. Yeah, I know one of his quotes was, 5 turnovers in 16 minutes just isn't good enough. When one of those games he had high turnovers and he cut his minutes that game. So, and I, with LeVar saying what he said, and just recently I saw Kendrick Perkins, I think he said this last night, Saturday night on Twitter, that JB's ego is the reason why LaMelo isn't starting, which I don't agree. I think, they're helping LaMelo, who's a young player, build good habits. They're helping him get in rhythm with an important player off the bench in Miles Bridges, and I think it's just a plan that they have there. So I do think LaMelo will start eventually, and I think they're trying to figure out what they're doing with Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier and also Malik Monk. So
he just came back.
It's a lot there, and for every 27-point game LaMelo has, and I just talked about how good he's playing. He's had 5-point games. He's had, this and that. So after he goes off a 30-point game, we can't be saying the coach has an ego for not starting him. And then, if he comes back tomorrow and he has 5 points, then what are we saying? So absolutely. I think LaMelo just needs time to just give him time to play. I'm not surprised at the LeVar thing. I was wondering when his first outburst was going to be. This one wasn't that bad. It was what I kind of expected. Him saying his boys aren't role players, they're stars, et cetera, et cetera. But I like that LaMelo it seems like it's not going to his head or whatever. He seems like he's with his coach. He seems like he likes his team because, they could start a whole controversy with him being in Charlotte and not being a major market or whatever. But he seems to be comfortable where he is and like where he is. And he got a bright future in Charlotte.
All right, and just speaking of that, because this is a whole nother level. That's something you usually see on the AAU, the high school level, with dad saying, you need to play my boy, you need to play my son. My son's better than this, that, and the third. And with I like say LaMelo not feeding into that, is that a good sign for Charlotte?
Yeah, it is. I think LaMelo has shown, for anybody that follows their Facebook show that they had, Facebook Watch show, and him choosing Puma over staying with the home brand, and when he was going through the draft process, he had some, his guy that was over him that kind of helped him guide through the process. And LeVar's his dad. He's a part of the process. He don't always be a part. Obviously, right. But LaMelo has seemed like he's had his own team around him or whatever since he decided to go to Australia or whatever. So, LeVar's an influence on him. It's his dad, but it seems like he has his own mind, and they've always said that. Even Lonzo has said that, but I think Lonzo being the first one, he kind of probably felt the pressure of LeVar a little more. He had to deal with what came with LeVar a little more. So LaMelo got to see that, and he gets to move differently. So I think, Lonzo was a trial run. I think everything that Lonzo had issues with won't be a problem for LaMelo. Yeah, so.
No, I definitely agree. Speaking of Lonzo, just real quick, he also had a good game over the weekend against the Milwaukee Bucks. Friday night, he had 27 points, a career high 7 threes.
Wait, they was against the Bucks also?
Yeah.
The Balls like just killing the Bucks,
I guess. Killed the Bucks. Yeah, the Balls just killing the Bucks all weekend. Just real quick, do you think this is because Lonzo and Eric Bledsoe both got to start in the backcourt. Right. Do you see this as a good starting trend for Lonzo?
I hope so, because I'm one of the people, I never was extreme. I'm not going to say I wasn't extremely high on Lonzo, but I remember him coming out and his comparisons was Jason Kidd at the height, and I remember Jalen Rose, shout out Jalen Rose, saying he's more Ricky Rubio, and I see both of those in him. I know the all-star potential that's in Lonzo, but after a couple years in and he does what he does, you kind of become the player that you are. So, which Lonzo's a valuable player. He's a high-level defender. I like how he pushes the ball. I just always wish he was more aggressive. Right. I wanted to be something to come for Lonzo, but I believe more so about the trade talk for him. So I think he's probably gonna get moved.
Definitely. Just speaking of the trade talks, there has been plenty of rumored suitors out there for him.
Yeah, I saw about 10 teams.
I know the teams I've seen. The Knicks have been one.
Yep.
The Warriors have been another.
Yep.
Do you can think of any of those teams off the top of your head real quick?
The Clippers have been a team. I had some trolls on Twitter kept telling me that he was confirmed to the Clippers or whatever. That's random. But the main teams I've seen are the Clippers, the Knicks, the Warriors, and those are the big three that I've seen. Nobody else that I know right off the top of my head, but those are the three that seem like they got some steam behind them. But I've heard it's as many as 10 teams.
I know with the Warriors, I've seen the proposed trade. It was, of course, Kelly Oubre from the Warriors to New Orleans for Alonzo Ball and J.J. Redick.
Right.
If that trade was to go down, who would be the
Warriors
the winner? Like, just straight off the trade.
Yeah, when that's something that I've also heard. I think we talked about that off air. That they were considering Kelly Oubre for J.J. Redick and Lonzo, and I'm like, wow. I mean, that's I didn't think Kelly Oubre would require such a return. Like, just Kelly Oubre, not any picks involved or whatever. And if I'm the Warriors, I'm taking it because without Clay, obviously JJ is a different type of shooter, but he's an elite shooter and he's an older player, obviously. But adding shooting and a point guard, which I personally love Steph when he could play off the ball. I like him being starting point guard, but I've always loved when he had Jared Jack, Sean Livingston, Barbosa, Andre Iguodala handling the ball. I love Steph Curry off the ball.
It just opens up the offense more.
Yeah, and you bring in JJ, who's a certified shooter. Even as an older player, I think he would serve well in that system around some decent passers or whatever. So if I was the Warriors and that's the offer, I would jump on it. I mean, What's there to question? You're not losing no picks. Kelly's having an up and down year. You're adding shooting. And you're getting younger at the point guard because potentially, if you do bring that in, Lonzo has the opportunity to grow with Steph and next year Clay, Wiggins in the lineup, and so that improves you defensively. And I think Lonzo will help offensively since the Warriors pass and cut a lot.
Right, no, that would definitely help. And just speaking of J.J. Redick real quick, I saw an Instagram post that had some rumored teams who were interested in him. Philly.
Say back to the 76ers?
Yeah, back to the 76ers.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Brooklyn Nets, excuse me.
That would be nice.
That would be nice, but they don't really need J.J. Redick in Brooklyn, honestly.
No, Joe Harris is holding it down. They need size and point guard play.
And the other team was the Boston Celtics, who, on first observation of it sounds like, oh yeah, that will work in Boston. Give Jason Tatum bring in somebody to help space the court more for Jason Tatum. But we all know what Boston's main thing is that they need right now, and that's more big man than shooting. I think they have enough guard play and enough guards and wings that can make shots.
Yeah,
with Kemba Walker, Peyton Pritchard. What's my guy named Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, all those guys can already make shots.
Right.
So bringing in another shooter, I don't think is a priority right now, especially with Marcus Smart also going down. He's going to be out for 1 to 2 weeks.
Right.
I think if you're going to bring in another guard, it should probably be a defending guard or a big man.
I think Boston mainly needs size. I think they're good at guard. You got Pritchard, you got Kemba. Marcus Smart isn't going to be out that long. Jaylen Brown's going to handle the ball. Jason Tatum's going to handle the ball. Down the line, you got Romeo if he's in the play. They don't really need a guard, I wouldn't think. And I think I'm missing.
They just drafted a wing out of Vanderbilt as well.
Yeah, so I don't think guard play is what they need. They need size. I think that's their big. That's been Boston's biggest hole is size. They kind of addressed it with Tristan, but not really, not enough. Yeah,
right.
They need size.
Before we get into the Boston Lakers game, I seen on Twitter it was Zach from Off the Glass podcast. He
shout out to Zach.
He proposed a question. It was, of course, everybody thinks that Jaylen Brown is going to be an All-Star this year, but can he be All-NBA this year?
Yeah, averaging 27 points per game right now. He definitely could be All-NBA. He's been Boston's best player this year. Jason Tatum made third-team All-NBA this year, but he's missed some games. If Boston continues to be top 4 in the East, Jaylen continues to average around 27 points per game. He's definitely going to be, at worst, he would be third-team All-NBA. winning and high production, and Eagles All NBA. I don't think it'd be far fetched to think he gets his first All-Star nod. He's definitely getting his first All-Star nod, but I don't think it'd be far fetched to think he gets his first All NBA this year.
Nah, I definitely agree with that. I think he could be, like I said, if he keep it up, maybe not 27, but if he can keep it around 25, 26, about 5 assists, 4 rebounds.
I mean, I think the scoring is going to be there because obviously Jason Tatum is going to score around 25 a game also, but I think Kemba will probably take a step back scoring-wise. And after those two, those are your big points. Everybody else just kind of chip in. Marcus Smart isn't a big scorer. Tristan isn't going to score. Payne Pritchard's a rookie. Daniel Tice doesn't score. So, I mean, he could stick around 27, 26 points per game. I wouldn't be surprised. Especially for this season.
For this season, I definitely agree with you. I get into the game. Like I said, it was a close victory by the LA Lakers last night over the Boston Celtics. Can you give me that final score real quick?
Yeah, 96-95.
96-95.
Under 100 points. Rare for a good game in the NBA these days.
Nah, definitely rare. Like, that's almost early 2000s. Ben Wallace, Detroit Pistons defense.
Right.
And that was a good game all throughout. Anthony Davis finally kind of broke out of his slump. He had 27 and 14, 2 steals, no blocks. He was a little better from the free throw line tonight, 4 for 7. But Anthony Davis is usually an 80% free throw shooter. Do you think this game wakes Anthony Davis up for the rest of the season, or is this kind of like a one-time thing because it was a big matchup thing?
I think not yet. Now, Coach Vogel, Frank Vogel, NBA champion coach Frank Vogel said that, earlier this season, the plan was, which was weird, you thought it was going to be LeBron that kind of took it easier this year, but the plan was kind of, because they're not worried about Anthony Davis, is to get the new people, bring them along and get them comfortable, and then feed Anthony Davis more as the season goes on. And I think that kind of has thrown him out of rhythm. Like I said, he had 27 last night, but he kind of took 25 shots, and he had the worst plus minus on the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken.
Feel about that?
If I ain't mistaken.
Yeah, minus 10.
Which he's Anthony Davis. He's a top 10 player in the NBA. You don't got to think too deep into it or whatever. But I do think they want him to get more aggressive going forward. That's the idea. Trez has been there for a while. Schroeder has been there. Wes Matthews, you got people comfortable. Now Anthony Davis is going to help you win a championship, because the Anthony Davis we've seen so far this season, while it is enough to help the Lakers make it to the playoffs and possibly conference finals, they're not winning the NBA championship with Anthony Davis averaging around 21 points per game, which is where he's at right now. So, not to say I don't think last night was a jump, but I do think you're going to see him ramp it up a little bit.
Saturday night,
forward.
Right?
Saturday night, yeah. I think you're going to see it ramp it up going forward.
And like I said, even though Anthony Davis is a veteran at this point, he's the NBA champion, but you don't want him to kind of start getting to that part of his career where he kind of get into that start to flip the switch on, flip the switch off thing.
Yeah,
because that can, it'll hurt you in the long run, because maybe you thinking that you're gonna flip the switch on and it's not gonna turn on one night.
And I just think a part of building rhythm and chemistry with the team is them also knowing, like, all right, y'all have learned the plays, but building chemistry with the team is also knowing that we're gonna run this offense through Anthony Davis. He's our best player, or 1A, 1B player to LeBron or whatever. So, you want everybody to be comfortable knowing we're running this offense through Anthony Davis. And you don't want to put too much on him at the last minute, as you just said, to try to perform like, all right, I got to turn it on now, even though it's hasn't been going through me throughout the season. So, but again, it's Anthony Davis. You don't got to worry too much about him, I don't think. I think he'll be fine going forward.
They got a big game from Montrezl Harrell off the bench with 16 points, 5 rebounds.
Right.
They kind of offset the, I don't want to say terrible, but the lackluster game Mark had last night. Saturday night, 1 point, 1 rebound.
Yeah, Mark.
1 steal. I know Mark was a big, as far as free agents go, he was like one of the bigger acquisitions of the offseason because of what he brings to the team. But he's not really, where he's working is not really working, especially on the defensive end, because he's not really able to guard the pick and roll as much. And then when you bring Montrez in, he's too small for bigger players, and that showed with Embiid the other night, where Embiid was too quick for Mark, but he was too big and too strong for Anthony Davis, which you don't say too often, and for Montrezl Harrell. Do you think the Lakers try to adjust and maybe sign a big man at some point?
Yeah, the Lakers are going to have to bring some size. And I thought it was weird that they let JaVale and Dwight go and you only replace that with Anthony. I mean, you only replace that with Mark and Trez. But I guess maybe you thinking because you made a deep run with Anthony Davis playing center that Anthony Davis is going to play a lot of center in the playoffs. But I don't think it'll hurt to have another big on the roster because Mark is the only true center on the roster, I believe. So after that, you're going real small with playing Trez. And Trez isn't the best defender, period. He showed us that last year. So I hope they're not depending on Trez to get them through in the playoffs defensively, like you thinking a lineup of Trez and AD at the 5 is what they're going to be doing, but I don't think that's enough. I think centers are going to play a good role this year. You know, the Clippers added Ibaka. Embiid is playing great. You still got to worry about Jokic in Denver. Rudy Gobert has been offensively better this year. I would actually give him his credit for that. I still don't believe in him offensively, but you have to acknowledge that he's had a lot bigger offensive games this year than I've seen from him in the past. So I want to give him credit for that. So you're gonna run into some size unless you play Boston.
Definitely.
So I think they should be looking. I don't know who's out there, but I think them in Brooklyn are gonna be fighting for centers. Towards the end, I know Brooklyn just brought in
Norvell Powell. I think.
Yeah, they brought in Norvell. Yeah, they just signed him right before they signed Iman Shumpert. But I think if they can, they might bring in another big also. So it'll be interesting to see who gets the prize big man. Is Tyson Chandler out here anywhere? Can he get anybody some good minutes?
I think
you only need 10 minutes.
I think he can, but I don't really know I don't think Tyson Chandler is really on team's radar right now for whatever reason. I think he could provide 10 minutes a night every couple games.
Yeah, 10 minutes. Then, that occasional night where he's having a good game, he gives you about a 15-minute run, 15, 20 minutes. But 10 minutes a night. Marcus played 18 last night. So I thought it was very weird that they let JaVale and Dwight go. I thought one of those guys would come back and then you add somebody else. If not both, but to lose both was weird.
All right, definitely. And just to go to the Portland and Chicago Bulls game, like I say, which ended on a Damian Lillard buzzer beater off of a jump ball situation. Dame, of course, he finished the game 44 points, 9 assists.
Yep.
Chicago has a couple big nights from Lauri Markkanen, who had 31.
Yep.
Zach LaVine had 26.7 rebounds, 4 assists. Portland has been a pretty up and down team this year. I know with the injuries with Yusuf Nurkic, and CJ McCollum. CJ will probably be back before Nurk, but where do you see Portland going on in the next couple weeks? Because they both are kind of injuries that's going to have them out for a while.
Yeah, those are two, you would think your second and third best players, so very important players on those teams. Portland, they're over 500 right now. They're in the playoffs. We all expect them to make the playoffs. I think the best thing for them is that everyone's kind of having a slow season other than the teams at the top, the Lakers, Utah, Clippers, Philly. Pretty much Philly in the East and Boston have been the most consistent teams. Brooklyn has picked it up now, but they started off kind of slow. Indiana started off hot and they're tailing off or whatever. But with the range that they're in, like I said, they're like in 7th now, but they can easily, get to 4th place. It's just a matter of the amount of games that they played with Denver. So they're right there. So it's just a matter of getting everybody back in over the next couple of weeks while you have people out. Expect Dame to hold it down. Katner had 22 and 11, which you like to see with Nurk being out.
Definitely.
I think they're going to need some good moments from Melo.
He only had 4 points last night.
4 last night.
2 for 8.
Yeah, so I think Melo's been adjusting to his role this year. He's had to start a couple games and then, he's been coming off the bench. But I think Portland is going to be fine going forward. Over the stretch of their next couple of games, we'll see what they have coming through. I know they got Milwaukee coming up, but then you got Washington and
New York,
Philly. New York is going to be tough. New York, they're a good team, but you should win New York. Philly should be a tough game. But then you got Charlotte, Orlando, So they got some winnable games. I think Dame can hold it down, and then hopefully you get CJ back in the next couple weeks. And what's Nurk's timeline looking like?
What was it, fractured wrist?
Ooh,
I
that
think
sound good.
he's gonna be out for at least a month. I think it was.
Okay, so he should be back about after All-Star break.
No, yeah, he should be back. I thought both of them will be back before the end of the season. It's just like I say with this. I think we have to keep putting emphasis on that this is a shorter season.
Right.
So just miss every game, miss like that, and then you never know who's going to be out because of COVID protocol or having COVID. So it's just those games piling up where so you got Philly twice and Milwaukee in this next strain, this next run of games. Those are games that even though you could lose, you could want to at least win one or two of those.
Yeah.
On top of already beating the teams that you're supposed to be, being the Knicks and the Charlotte Hornets.
Right, so I think they, luckily you got Dame and he can do things like score 40 and hit the game tying and game winning shot with 12 seconds left in the game.
Yeah, definitely. And just to speak on Chicago real quick, I know everybody is on the Zach LaVine love train. I think he's averaging 27.
Who's that?
Zach LaVine.
Oh yeah, that sounds.
I think he's averaging
right.
27. Of course, his All-Star campaign is starting for a lot of NBA Twitter and NBA Instagram. I know how you feel about it, but do you think Zach LaVine has a shot at being a coach's pick for the All-Star game if he keep his numbers up?
I think he has a shot. Chicago isn't terrible, but they're not good. But they're not terrible. They play hard. Zach does put up some numbers. I think he has a shot. I think he may miss this year. But he definitely has a chance to get in. I'm wondering, is Chicago thinking about moving Zach? Or is he really in their future?
I've seen rumors. I seen one that said it was the Knicks was a rumored trade partner for Zach.
And that I don't know how him and RJ works out, but Zach is a player. He's clearly a big talent. I think he was about 24, 25 last year. He's at close to that again this year. He's kind of like in that Devin Booker area. Where it's like, how good is he really? Does he really contribute to winning, or are these empty numbers? And I think Zach's a really good player. I think he's developed from being a guy that some people thought was just an athletic freak, but didn't know what his game really was, to being a bucket. 27 points per game is that's a lot of buckets. So I think he has a good All-Star case this year. I don't have him in, but the Bulls have some time to change that. I think winning helps. Nobody likes to see someone just put up numbers on a terrible team. But as I said for Chicago, they're not terrible this year. Chicago's playing hard. They've had some injuries, new system, new coach, and they're still a young team. But they're getting better. I do think, Chicago isn't a cakewalk. You're not walking into the United Center and you're just like, all right, we got to sleep on the Bulls tonight because Zach will score 40 on you and you'll lose. Right. So, in lower market, they had a good night last night.
Had 31.
Right, 31, 12, 18 from the field. So
throwing Kobe White with 20 and 6.
Right, so it's something there in Chicago, I believe. And I think Zach could be a key piece of that. I think he's probably a year away from his first All-Star, though.
Right. And just speaking of Chicago, and they have so much young talent right now with Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, Patrick Williams, the lottery pick this year, Wendell Carter, who didn't play last night. Where do you see Chicago's future going in the next, let's just say, 2 to 3 seasons?
Right. I think Chicago this year, you brought in Billy Donovan. He wanted to put his imprint on the culture there, and Chicago has a chance still to compete for the play-in game this year. Because, like I said, they're 7-11 right now, so obviously they're under 500, but they're in 11th, and you just need to get to the 10th to play in the play-in game, and they're about a game behind Orlando, so they're right there.
And still a lot of season left.
Excuse me. Right, so I think it's identifying who their main pieces are. You want Lauri Markkanen to be healthy. I think Kobe White's a part of the future. And then I think the biggest question mark, Patrick Williams has been a great pickup for them in the draft. He's had a solid rookie campaign for them. I think the main thing is figuring out Wendell Carter, because there was some talk about trading him early before the season, and then figuring out if Zach is really one of your cornerstone players. Because either you're going to start building around Zach and putting some pieces with Zach, or you trade him and you start your rebuild. But I don't think Billy Donovan wants to be a part of a rebuild. So I think they're looking to add to what they have. And I think you want Zach to break out and be an all-star, and then you want one other player to break out and show all-star potential, and that's Laurie or Kobe White, in my opinion. I mean, you still got Wendell Carter, obviously.
I think he has all defensive potential.
Yeah, but I think Kobe and or Laurie
are gonna probably be your big three for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, well, or and at least one of those to step up, and then maybe you can get someone else to think about signing with Chicago over the next couple of years. I don't know what the free agency is looking like or whatever. I don't even care to get into that, but Chicago's an enticing place, and I think that they can get somebody in there.
All right, just stick with Saturday night games. Did you see the buzz around the Warriors Detroit Pistons game?
I didn't see that.
So the Warriors got a 118-91 victory. Steph had 28.7 assists, but it was kind of around Rodney McGruder. He tried to get into it with the bitch at the end of the game. The couple Warriors played with Draymond Green and Klay Thompson got a couple jokes off. Klay Thompson was basically like, I don't know how long his career is gonna be. That's probably got him upset. Draymond said some things. I don't exactly remember what Draymond said. And I know, for the most part, NBA Twitter's in an uproar about it because you don't usually see players going at other players like that.
Right.
But when you think about the history of the game where you've had players like Gary Payton, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, just all-time trash talkers, do you think this was above and beyond, or this just regular NBA talk, stars talking to a role player?
Right, yeah, it's just talk. I don't know why people would be up, because clearly it was an issue. I don't know what the issue was, but I think it's just regular trash talk. Some players in the league don't like other players. Some players think other players are overrated, and some players think some won't be in the NBA that long. So none of that is really that surprising. But I guess since we're in such an era of the friendly hooper, people are surprised when somebody goes in on another player or whatever. And especially if Klay don't like you, nobody likes you, because Klay has been voted the most liked player in the NBA. So if Klay says something about you, might be something there.
Right. And
might be you.
And just your personal opinion on it. Is this nothing, or is this like, this is like one of the things Rodney McGruder should just brush off? He's an NBA player. He's been an NBA player for a minute. This is one of the things he should just brush off and let go, or it's like,
oh yeah, it's nothing. What he's gonna do?
Bulletin board material next time.
Rodney McGruder, I say this confidently, is clearly not gonna get back at them on the court. Move on. The best thing you can do is drop 40 on them. Is he gonna do that? He's not. So move on. Next time y'all play, help your team get a win, and that's the best revenge you could get.
That's fair. Real quick before I switch teams, is Jeremy Grant your most improved player right now?
He just might be. The only thing that's stopping me with Jeremy Grant is the Detroit Pistons are so terrible. So it's like a Kevin Martin situation. Like, you putting up these numbers, but you're losing in Minnesota. Then you get traded to a team in Oklahoma City where they expect you to be able to put up numbers, and you're terrible there while they're trying to win. Not that Jeremy Grant would be terrible in a winning situation. Clearly, he was just good with the Nuggets last year.
Right.
But Detroit has the worst record in the league. The second worst. Washington.
That's the worst.
The Wizards have the worst record in the league. Let that be known. Then Minnesota, and then it's the Pistons. So, I like to give people credit for hooping. He is hooping this year. He's playing efficiently. He's averaging about 23 points per game this year or whatever. But having the third worst record in the NBA doesn't really help his case. The main thing is just to compete. You don't expect them to win a championship, but having a record like that, that's terrible. And it's not like they're losing like buzzer beater games, close games here or there. Detroit, they stink some nights. They look pretty bad. So, but with that said, Jeremy Grant is having a good season. He's having a really good season. So I've seen even some people think he could be an all-star. If he makes an all-star game, lock him in as most improved player. Well, I say lock him in, but we saw how that worked with
D'Angelo Russell. Yeah, definitely.
So, but I would say if he makes the all-star, he's gonna be most improved player this year.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think he has a great chance to win it. I had somebody else in my head for most improved, but I know Jeremy Grant right now at the top of it is probably the not defense player of the year, but the most improved player of the year. But he could be all defense this year.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. All defense. I can't think of. I haven't thought about most improved players yet this year, other than, he has been someone that's been on my radar. Shea, did Shea win last year? Gilgeous Alexander?
I think it was Brandon Ingram last year.
Brandon Ingram won last year, so Shea has a chance this year at 21 a game. And OKC, like I said, they're not terrible. We don't expect them to even make the playoffs, but they're competing. They look like they want to win some nights, and some nights they do, some nights they don't. But I think Shea would be a contender for that award also.
Do you think Shea can be an All-Star this year? Like, say, 21, about 21, 5 and 4?
Right, I think he could, and especially because OKC is a solid team. They're not going to the finals this year or whatever. They're in 11th right now, but they're competing for the play-in spot. I don't think they're going to get it, but they are. So at this point, I think he can make the All-Star game. Definitely think he can make it. And I think he's their best player. He's been a great part of why they've been winning.
No, I definitely agree with that. Speaking of players who's a part of their team's success that's been out for a while, Jimmy Butler came back last night and had, Saturday night had 28 points in the Miami Heat victory. Do you think this kind of, my bad, he had 30 points. He had 30 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. Do you kind of think this can help start Miami trending up?
Yeah, and they definitely need that. Miami's at 7-12 right now. Jimmy hasn't played a lot this year. I don't know if it's coronavirus protocol or it is rest because of the long run that they went on.
COVID protocol.
Okay, so and that's, we all knew that would be a factor in the league this year. But Jimmy Butler being out there is key to Miami. Bam has been picking it up recently and on his way to making his second All-Star, I believe. But I think, I haven't seen much from anyone else. And I think they need Jimmy back around. Duncan Robinson is playing solid, I guess. Kendrick Nunn still talk about Rookie of the Year from last year. Tyler Hero has a good game, and then he has a terrible game. I think Miami may be a team that's in the market to make a move for somebody too. I love Precious on their team. I cannot say his last name, so I'm not gonna butcher it right now. But Precious, it's funny to pick up Precious because I kind of thought him and Bam were getting each other way, and they don't really play together. I mean, they do. They do play together.
The good part about it, they don't. Right. They play together, but they don't really play together a lot.
Yeah, but he's been a good pickup for that team, and I think if they would have had him last year, especially when Bam was out during the finals, that would have helped them. Just the size, the aggressiveness he plays with. I really like Precious on their team. But Jimmy coming back definitely helps them. And I expect Miami to make the playoffs. Right now, they're not in the playoffs, but they're going to go on a little run, I believe.
All right, Sacramento had a couple big nights from some of their better players. Harrison Barnes finished with 30, I think it was. De'Aaron Fox is basically...
No, De'Aaron Fox had 30 in this last game. Harrison then, he had a solid game.
Yeah, a solid game. Yeah. Okay, it was the game before then.
Yeah, the game before that.
But I guess Tyrese Halliburton, he's still doing his thing. 10.7 rebounds, 6 assists off the bench.
Rookie of the year.
Marvin Bagley kind of woke up a little bit, 17 points. I wish he would have got more than 4 rebounds, but he's kind of showing he was interested in the game last night.
Right.
Well, of course, it's out there that his dad said that that he wants him to be traded. Sacramento is one of those weird teams where they have a lot of young talent, but a lot of that young talent don't want to be there. What is really just Marvin Bagley and Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield is very up and down.
Right.
I know he hasn't, thrown the trade talks out there lately because he hasn't been playing like he wants to be traded. But do you think Sacramento can kind of turn the season around a little bit, or are they just got to keep being the Sacramento Kings for one more season?
See, Sacramento, they're right on the outside looking in. Also, like they can get in, they can make the play-in game. Also, I think Bagley playing well and Fox being healthy is a key to that. I really like Tyrese. I like him to the point that I would honestly trade Buddy Hield, and because I think they like playing with Tyrese. I think they like what he brings to the table. He's savvy. He's clever when he plays. And I just think he plays well with De'Aaron Fox. So I will actually be trying to get him more minutes, and maybe you can get some pieces for Buddy Hield or whatever. I think it's there for Sacramento to make a run, but I feel like they're going to fall apart after the All-Star break. I think they're going to be one of those teams. But it's all... The key is De'Aaron Fox, Halliburton, and Bagley to me. Like, I'm Buddy Hield. I would want to keep Buddy, But I think Hamilton makes me okay with trading Buddy, and I can find a backup for Hamilton and start Hamilton.
All right, definitely.
But having Harrison Barnes, NBA champion, been to the finals, pro with this team. Rashawn Holmes he's played well at times this year. Sacramento has talent to compete for the play-in game, but I think it's too many good teams in the West this year.
Definitely.
So I see them outside, but I got them finishing higher than the Pelicans.
And I see De'Aaron Fox is another one of those players who I've been saying brought up, who they want, who fans want to see as a first-time All-Star.
Nah, I'm not putting him in this year.
Not putting him in this year.
But he's averaging 21 and 6.
I say it's because he's just not playing to that level, or is it just too many guards in the West?
Too many guards in the West, and I think De'Aaron needs to earn this All-Star spot. I think De'Aaron, really good player. I just say he's averaging 21 and 6. I think he's been given things based off of a little bit of what he's shown and what his potential. Like, I don't really think before I say what I say, all players sign for as much money as any team is going to give you ever. But if I was Sacramento, I wouldn't have been so in a rush to give him his supermax. He got the supermax last year. He got the supermax potential deal last year. And De'Aaron's been in and out of the lineup or whatever. When he's there, he's a good player, but he's been out a lot. So I think it's time for De'Aaron to kind of cash in and show them what he brings to them. Why they want to give him a supermax. Why teams think he could be a top 10, maybe 5 point guard in the NBA. I don't think he's put it all together yet. But he got an opportunity to do it this year. But I've already seen John Morant lead Memphis and be better than them. You still got Dame, you got Steph, you got Luka, you got Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's a lot of guards out there, and I think Oladipo now. John Wall is playing healthy, and I just said he's averaging 21, but so is Shai. So, and OKC's better. So who would you put in the All-Star game if it came down to Shai and De'Aaron Fox? I would give it to Shai.
Most coaches probably gonna put in Shai because, like I say, the team being a little bit better helps.
Yeah, that's gonna help in the end because their numbers are so similar. So it's gonna come down to those wins, and I will go with Shai. So I think unless he turns it up a little bit more, he's gonna be on the outside looking in the All-Star game and the play-in game this year.
All right. Now, the team I know a lot of people had high hopes for. I think you've had them finishing in the top 4 this year with Luka being an MVP candidate, if not MVP. Dallas has kind of been struggling a lot this year.
Yeah,
they've had times where they look like the team from last year, and they've had times where they just look like they can't put it all together, especially offensively. And I know a lot of that goes to them trading Seth Curry for Josh Richardson. And then I think another part of that hasn't really been talked about was losing DeLon Wright to the Pistons, because DeLon Wright was another ball handler, playmaker, defender, and he was not the defender that Josh Richardson was or is, but he's a good defender. Do you think those two moves, because it took away stuff that Dallas was historically the best offense last year,
right? Yeah.
Do you think those two moves is kind of what's hindering Dallas right now?
Right, especially the Steph Curry move. Seth Curry, that was a weird trade for me at the start, from the start of the year. I know
as a Philly fan, you appreciate it, though.
Yeah, for the Philly fan, come on with it. But I don't get why you, with a player that's going to have the ball in his hands as much as Luka, and they haven't tried to do much more with him other than play him on ball, you will want shooters and rim divers with him. So you add Josh Richardson, who's more of a slasher and kind of a guy that needs the ball in his hands, and even with Tim Hardaway, who's not necessarily a shooter, he just shoots.
He's a shooter.
Right.
He's a gunner.
Dallas this year is, to me, not that they have the same team, but they're the 76ers of last year, just having weird fit players. You kind of just think, we got Luka, he's a top 10 player, so in the end they're just gonna learn to play around him instead of continuing to put the best players possible that fit around him. Right. Not just the best players all right, he's good, let's do this. No, he's a shooter, he's gonna defend and run the rim, he's gonna pick and roll. They just was all right, it just seemed like they just added some pieces this year and took away some things that do well. And I think what they need to do is do some different things with Luka. And then they lost Steven Silas. So Steven Silas was their head coach. Assistant coach, and he ran the offense that was the best offense in NBA history or whatever. But I think they should add some more guard play. Definitely some size. It seems like everybody need guard play and size. But I say Dallas should add some more guard play just to give Luka some different looks where he's not on the ball 100% of the time. First of all, I think you're making him predictable to guard if he's only on the ball all the time. He's never starting at different positions. I think you're building habits for him to not want to do anything off the ball either, because he's typically going to either have the ball, so when he's off the ball, those are probably plays he's not involved in, and it's going to look a lot like, I've been saying this a lot on NBA Twitter the last 48 hours, but it's going to look a lot like James Harden, where he's on the ball, he's active, but when he's not on the ball, it's so easy to play off of him because he's not involved. He's not getting catch and shoot plays. He isn't cutting. He isn't, coming down off of a pick and popping out or nothing like that. So I think adding more guard play helps you expand Luka's game, because you don't want him to get stuck in playing one way in his 4th year in the NBA, because since his rookie year and they realized, he is who he is, they've traded a lot of their skilled players or other guards and just built around Luka handling the ball, which the ball should be in his hands the most, but they should add more ball handling there.
And I know one of those.
Which they got Jalen Brunson. I like Jalen Brunson.
I don't think that's
they need another guard.
Yeah, and I don't think that combination, say Jalen Brunson and Trey Burke, is the combination that's going to really help Luka, reach his full potential later on down the line. And I know another thing I've been saying on NBA Twitter has been the fit with Kristaps Porzingis, but he got in the trade last year with the New York Knicks for Dennis Smith and a handful of other players. Do you feel the same way, or does it? Because I know Kristaps hasn't played a lot. First and foremost, with the injuries, he coming to Dallas, he was injured. He got hurt last year in the playoffs. I know Luka missed some time last year as well, so they really haven't had the chance to play and build that chemistry and get on the same page together.
Right.
Do you think it's a matter where it's just a bad fit, unless they need to cut their losses now, or let's give it some time and maybe it does work in the long run?
Definitely don't think it's a bad fit, because Porzingis is such a skilled player. He's 7 feet. He can shoot the ball. And I think he's more of a number 2 than he is a number 1 player. I just think Porzingis needs to be on the court. A lot of injuries with him. So the main thing is his health. I think they should be investing in another player to play with those 3, and maybe that helps take the load off Porzingis. I've seen that Dallas wants to be in the Bradley Beal sweepstakes, which if they could, I would say go for it for sure.
Definitely.
But I think Luka and Porzingis, they aren't the problem. Porzingis not being on the court is the problem, because even once he, you start getting in the rhythm, then you get hurt. You start getting another rhythm, you get hurt. Last year, once he started getting a rhythm with Luka missed some games. Then Luka came back, they played. Then Porzingis missed some games. Then I think Porzingis missed all of the playoffs, I think.
He played like 2 games.
He played 2 games in the
playoffs, yeah.
So, and I think he's played about maybe 7-8 games this year so far. Out of Dallas's first, we're almost 20 games in. So, excuse me. The main thing is just getting Porzingis on the court and him being healthy.
And I know we all know that Mark Cuban is a guy, he makes moves. He wants his team to be as good as it can be. He wants his star players to be happy, especially. Do you think he tried to make a move before the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think Cuban, I don't think he's going to do nothing drastic, because I think he understands that his team is young. His best player is young. His second best player is still young. So nothing drastic, but I think he makes a move because if you make the right move, it is an opportunity for Dallas to be there, to try to compete with the Lakers and the Clippers, or because you got Luka, so Luka gives you a chance. So I think if there's an opportunity to make a move, something happens. But I think this year is going to be a weird year for moves, even though we've already seen a few trades with COVID and having to move these people around and the testing and quarantining. I think a lot of teams will be reluctant to make some moves here or there. or even with signings, because you don't want somebody that's been out for too long. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, what type of lifestyle have you been living? Mm-hmm. But you're gonna have to make moves to get better this year. I think almost everyone. It's only a few teams I feel like don't need. They just need to grow within their team. There's only a couple of them.
Who are those?
For one, I think the 76ers.
Excuse me, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the 76ers need anything. I think their team just need to keep getting better. I don't think the Lakers they could use a big, but
a mobile big.
Yeah, mobile big. So mainly the Sixers. I think like the Clippers are looking at guard play. I don't think they really need to add too much. I think if they can get another guard in, that'd be great. But I think they're okay. I think the Clippers are fine. I think Utah's fine so far. I think you just need your players to perform. So Clippers, Utah, Philly, they're all some of the teams that come to mind when I think of teams that just need to grow within the team that they have, because they have the pieces to compete for a championship. I think the Lakers could use a center, just some size. I think Boston could use some size. Brooklyn, then the Nets, they obviously just got James Harden. They're lacking depth, rim protection. I think another ball handler wouldn't hurt. I don't know if Bruce Brown is the answer there. So they could use a few things. Pretty much a good amount of people can use some things.
No, definitely. You think any teams looking to sell, trade, because they're in a position they weren't expecting to be in. Maybe some teams are worse. They were expecting maybe they can get off some bad contracts.
Right.
Or just get some players to some winning situations. Who do you think those teams going to be coming up real soon?
I think there are some teams that's looking to get off some players, but I don't know if it's necessarily due to winning or losing, which is strange. Like, I think the Pistons wouldn't mind getting off Blake Griffin. I think Cleveland, who is better than a lot of us predicted, wouldn't mind getting off Andre Drummond, especially with where they are. Maybe you can bring something in for him, and that helps you compete a little more. Mm-hmm. Because I think Cleveland, like they've been a lot better this year than I thought they were going to be. They have a couple good wins. They play hard every night. They're in the playoffs right now. I don't know if that's going to stand, but they are in 7th place in the East. But, you bring in Jared Allen. I think JaVale McGee might be out of there, but Jared Allen clearly seems like he's more of the future than Andre Drummond. Why trade for Jared Allen? Why have Andre Drummond?
Right.
So I think Andre Drummond is a player we can see move. Obviously, Bradley Beal with Washington and them being way worse than we all thought that they would be. And then the Pelicans and the Lonzo thing, because they expected Lonzo to take another step, but then he has a big game like he had a few nights ago, and it's like, dang, do we really want to trade him? So it's definitely some people out there that I think gonna get a couple calls to see where they're going.
Definitely. All those sound like things, especially the Blake Griffin one with the weird way that he's playing this year.
A lot of threes this year. I still don't think he has a dunk yet. Don't quote me, but I don't think he has a dunk. But he's taking about 8 threes a game. Every night I look up, Blake has taken. You think
that holds up even if he gets traded?
I think he does still stretch the floor, because I think they're trying to show that he can stretch the floor. So I definitely think he's gonna shoot threes, but I don't think he's gonna be shooting 8 to 10 threes a game wherever he goes. I can't see it.
No, I definitely agree with that.
But maybe that's where he is. He's had his injuries, so maybe he's feeling like I need to change my game and be Carmelo Anthony a little more.
Yeah, and just real quick, we got a couple minutes left here. The Utah Jazz have won their last 10 games. I think they have a 14-4, sitting at the top of the West.
Yeah, top of the league.
I guess 2-point question. Do you think they stay there? Like, not necessarily first place, but maybe one of those first 3 seeds?
Right.
And do you think that they can make a deep playoff run this year?
I think this is the year for them to do that. They lost 3. They were up 3-1 last year to the Nuggets. Obviously lost. But they had the pieces there. You signed Mike Conley last year to do what he's doing this year. He's playing really well. He's playing efficient. Joe Ingles, Donovan Mitchell is a year older. I think Utah is going to compete this year. I think the Clippers and the Lakers are the best 2 teams in the West. But they have 2 All-Stars, 2 All-NBA type players on their team. And Mike Conley, is another really good player. So it's there for Utah to compete. But I think the Lakers and the Clippers are the best in the West in the end. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Utah try to sneak into that conference finals. And I say that as a person who had them at 7th, I believe, this year.
Yeah.
So they're doing better than I predicted they would do.
And the San Antonio Spurs are in at the 4th seed right now.
Yep, you're the only person I knew that had them in the playoffs this year.
Do you think they can hold that up and stay, not necessarily the 4th seed again, but just stay in the playoff race?
I think San Antonio definitely can stay in the 4 to 7 range because San Antonio plays good basketball. DeMar DeRozan, the young guys are stepping up this year. Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, DeJounte Murray. I like them getting Devin Vassell on their team.
Atlanta.
Right. So R.C. Buford and Pop, that's a championship recipe right there. So the Spurs, they just play. I saw it the other day. Death, taxes, Spurs winning games.
All right, and yeah, this was the first episode of the Hoopers Hour presented to you by Nothing But Net Radio on Dash Radio. Like I said, we'll be here every Monday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Once again, I'm Jon Dubya.
I'm Fresh X.
And you can find us on Friday mornings with the Hoopers Morning Run on Off the Ball Network, on Facebook, our podcast, the Hoopers, anywhere that you can listen to the podcast at. You find us on social media. The Instagram is _Hoopers IG. Twitter is at Hoopers Pod. Thanks again for listening to the first episode, tuning in with us. You got any closing statements you want to make before we get out of here?
Nope. Just appreciate everyone that's listening. As he said, every Monday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Nothing But Net. Brought to you by Dash Radio. Shout out to the Off the Ball Network. Every Friday, catch us Friday morning on the Off the Ball Network's Facebook page for the Hoopers Morning Run. And appreciate the listeners.